We're back, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for another edition of Silver and Black today, an Odyssey original podcast. Scott Branson here with my partner Mo Moten. We were off last week. We did our post-draft show. Huge numbers on that one, by the way. You guys love that show. Thanks for the feedback. But we are back, as I mentioned, myself and my co-host, my partner in all of this. That is Mo Moten. He's a national NFL writer at Bleacher Report. Follow him at Mo Moten on Twitter, MoeMoton. And I am at LV Gully. You can follow the show, SNB Today. Mo, we did that post-draft show early last week for Monday, and then we were off the rest of the week from the show, and now we're back, and it's real interesting because, boy, there was a lot of emotion on draft night and after the draft and how the Raiders did this, they didn't do that, they didn't do this, they did that, they needed to do that. And so there's a lot of people all over the map. Now, a week later-ish later, it seems like Raider Nation is kind of like, whoa, let's sit back and look at this. And okay, you and I both had it in the B category, B plus B grade. Looks like Raider Nation starting to warm to some of these guys, including Michael Mayer for the number 2 pick in the draft for the Raiders, of course, a tight end in Notre Dame, go Irish. And everyone else too on that draft slate seems to be warming up. The nation seems to be feeling a little better this week than last week.
As a fan, what else are you going to do? Are you gonna mope around the whole offseason and criticize the draft picks? No. Once these guys go from college to being Raiders, as a fan, your inclination is to cheer these guys on, obviously, and hope that they are the best picks that the Raiders have had in a long time. Now, I will say, emotion or not, this is probably one of the better drafts the Raiders have had in the previous years. Now, that's not saying a lot. The bar was low, I know. Right. But if you look at the draft and what they did, I know they didn't address all their needs at spots that people thought they were, cornerback, linebacker specifically. But I thought for what they had and what they did a pretty decent job in filling some holes. Now, as I've said on previous shows, I have questions about 2 of the picks. One of the picks I will say that I was initially low on, I've come around on, and we'll talk about that. But overall, looking at this class, I would say I'm not moving off of my grade. It's a solid B class.
It's not Trey Tucker, is it?
Look, no matter how you try to spin the Trey Tucker pick, whether you're trading Hunter Renfrow or not, whether he could be Tyreek Hill or not, he's not going to be Tyreek Hill. Newsflash. No, but you just don't take a backup slot wide receiver. Now I know Dave Ziegler said he looks at Trey Tucker as a complete wide receiver. He can line up inside and outside. I get that. But his first job is going to be 1, to contribute on special teams, and 2, to fill in a slot. And you just don't take that guy in the 3rd round with the needs that the Raiders had.
Remember when they took the special teams war daddy?
Oh God.
Remember him? Oh, he was a special teams guy too, and they took him in the 3rd round. That was, of course, Tanner Muse. Right? So I have the same people telling me I was wrong about Tanner Muse telling me I'm wrong about Trey Tucker, that he's the second coming of Tyreek Hill.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, listen, I'm all fine with Raiders fans saying, hey, listen, give the guy a chance. I got no problem with that attitude, right? Okay, cool. But let's not put him up as something he's not going to be. Well, you didn't watch. I said, no, I did watch. I'm in Cincinnati. I saw him play all the time. So don't tell me I didn't watch him. It just is. Now, again, maybe... Listen, Mo, it'd be great if he proved us wrong, wouldn't it? It would be awesome. I'd be the first one to stand up and say I was wrong. But to your point, yes, I think that when people get a chance, they hear names, they don't know a name on draft night, so they overreact and say, what are they doing? Blah, blah. And then they have a week to watch. They have a week to read about these guys. They get to know them because, of course, all the beat writers are doing pieces on the draft picks, so you get to know the players. And suddenly people start to warm to them. Now, that said, Mo, even with this draft class, and some of the... Oh, by the way, who was the guy you changed your mind on?
It was Byron Young.
Oh,
Byron Young.
That's right.
And it's because when Byron Young was drafted, I heard a lot of, he's a run stopper, he's a run stuffer, he's a space eater. And yes, he did. He was a 2-gapper at Alabama, had to hold 2 blocks at one time. And I get that. But as I said on my Bleacher Report live show, as I said in our post-draft show, he had about 28 pressures in his last year at Alabama, which equaled the same amount of pressures he had in his first few years there. So with more playing time, he showed that he had the ability to rush the passer. My theory here is that he's not just a run stuffer. He's not just a space eater. He's not going to be a Jonathan Hankins. I think he's going to challenge Bilal Nichols for snaps. Because if you look at the measurements, Bilal Nichols and Byron Young, similar size, similar weight, height and weight measurements. If you look at Byron Young, he's under 300. Now he could probably get over 300 once he gets into an NFL facility. But his body type is the type of player you don't just put on the field on early downs and ask him to take on two gaps on the pro level. He has a type of body type where now he's not the most explosive athlete, but the ability to get to the quarterback, which he showed last year, says that he could possibly be on the field on all three downs. So I think he could be a possible replacement for Bilal Nichols. That's his upside. Raider fans don't want to hear it because Bilal Nichols is pretty much just the guy on the field last year. But I think they see the upside in Byron Young and saying that he could be better than Bilal Nichols is right now, what we expected Bilal Nichols to be. So before you give Byron Young a C draft grade, I would say wait to see how the Raiders use him. If they just use him as a run stuffer, then I understand the low grade. But I think they're going to try to put him on the field on every down and allow him to rush the passer.
I do too. And listen, I think he's the kind of guy, and I think I said this on our show last week after the draft, which was he's the kind of guy that you hope to develop, that can find it, because he has the innate talent there to do more than he did in college. And so I think that's one of those guys you're kind of taking. I know where he was taken might give people reservations about that, but he's a guy you're taking on spec, right? And you're saying, hey, we know what he can do, and fine, if he does that for us, whatever. But we think we can get more out of him. It's one of those challenges with this coaching staff and Patrick Graham's staff and the line coach. They're going to have to try to get more out of him. And if they do, you're right, the stock in that pick goes drastically higher. And so we'll see. And if they do that, if he can be more than some people think of him, then suddenly you wipe out a glaring need there, right? That goes beyond just getting somebody to stop the run. And I look at the roster, Mo, and even if you change your mind about Byron Young, and you say, okay, let's give this guy a shot, is the roster still has a lot of work to be done, right? There has to be some things happening here, whether it's via free agency. Some people have talked about trades. I don't see any trades happening. It's not Dave Ziegler's MO. If you're paying attention, Raider Nation, he's not going to make a trade for now. He's going to make a trade to stopgap now, but he's not going to make a trade for any big contracts or anything like that because he's building through the draft. Do you agree with me on that, Mo?
I agree with you on that, but what I will say is that the Raiders have such a big hole at linebacker.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see how he could not consider a trade. I mean, unless it's the team is asking for everything in the world. Right. I don't see how he doesn't go out and proactively try to improve the line. You cannot go into the season with Robert Spillane and Divine Diablo. And I know Raider fans have been saying Divine Diablo could be the breakout guy this year. Well, look, if I can get an upgrade at that position, which is by far easily the worst position on the roster, I try to improve it. And there are two names that I know people are gonna get tired of hearing me saying this, but
Patrick
Queen has to be on the Raiders' radar. He has to be. The Ravens declined his fifth-year option. It's clear that his future is uncertain in Baltimore. Pick up the phone and call the Ravens for Patrick Queen. The alternative is Isaiah Simmons out of Arizona. The Cardinals have a rebuilding franchise. Now, Simmons has been a lot more productive than Patrick Queen. He's also more versatile because he can also play safety and also can line up in the nickel. I don't think the Cardinals would be inclined to move on from him. But if they dangle him out there and put him on the trade block, I would definitely bite on that.
If you remember back at when he was drafted, I was doing a show with Kelly at that point live. I love that kid because of that hybrid position. The fact that he can sail back and play the safety as well and be effective in both spots. And the nickel, is awesome. If you look at the Patrick Queen thing, and I'm not just playing into the Mo Moton dreams and wishes here, but what I said about them not going out and making a big trade because they're going to build for the draft, Patrick Queen fits in that. Because if Patrick Queen comes to the Raiders, you're talking about a $3 million cap salary this year, and then he's a free agent, right? So you can take your one chance, and if he plays awesome and you re-sign him after that, great. If he doesn't, you walk away and you got him for a year, and if he did well, great for you. So to me, that's the perfect situation. That's why not only is the player good, But the situation with the contract is even better.
It's a very Denzel Perryman type move, right? So you
Right.
acquire the player, you see what he does for that 1 year, and then you figure out if you want to keep him. Now, Denzel Perryman had 2 years on his deal. Patrick Queen has 1, and Patrick Queen is younger. But the ideal is still the same. You get a cheap pickup, and then you take it from there to find out if he's going to be, a core piece of your defense or not. Now, they let Denzel Perryman walk after a Pro Bowl year. It's different, but I think Patrick Queen definitely, and a lot of people saying, well, he may ask for a new deal. Well, Patrick Queen didn't play well for his first 2 years in Baltimore, so he's not really in position to demand a new contract right now. He's going to have to play out 2023 to get that new deal, and I think that motivation, that added motivation on a cheap deal is a perfect situation for the Raiders.
It is. Mo, let me ask you this. Are the Raiders, do they need to, or are they going to do anything here before the season on the offensive line? I think they like what they have. I know a lot of Raider fans are still under the misnomer that the offensive line was terrible. It was not. At the beginning of the year, it was. It got better and got consistent. Is it a top 10 unit? No. But Jermaine Illuminor came along. He's got that spot right now. I think it's his to lose unless they go out and they completely upgrade, to my point. But I think they're ready to roll into the season with that. I'm not saying they won't get another player or two to come in there for depth, but I think they like what they have.
Yeah, I think they like what they have as well. But to your point, I think they're going to add some depth because if you read Peter King's piece, Peter King spent the night in the Raiders draft room. If you read the piece, the Raiders like Paris Johnson Jr. But the Cardinals moved up over the Raiders to the 6th spot and swiped him. So if anything, I think they add another tackle, but it's not going to be someone who's a big name, a big notable name, unless there's a cut somewhere. Maybe someone to compete with Jermaine Illuminor, but I would think that Illuminor is the front runner. It's his job to lose, basically, at right tackle.
Absolutely. All right, we're up against our first break here on Silver and Black today. Good to be back with you guys after a week. That's right, a week. We're back. We're talking Raiders football. When we come back, we'll roll on. We'll talk more about the Raiders getting back on the field. Yes, they're going to be back on the field this weekend, folks. Yes, the rookies, that is. We'll talk about that. Also, the schedule, the NFL schedule, including the Raiders schedule, will be released on Thursday. So we'll talk through that as well. You're listening to Silver and Black today, an Odyssey original podcast. Don't go anywhere. We are back. Silver and Black today. Mo Moten, Scalco Branson with you. We are talking Raiders football. Thanks for being with us. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, what the heck is wrong with you? Make sure you do that wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Silver and Black today, and you can do that. Subscribe, but then also turn on the auto download. That way, anytime we do a show, you're going to get it pushed right to your device, most likely your phone, where most people listen to us, and especially if you're on an Apple iPhone, that tends to be our listener. Hey, go figure. But you can get it on any device wherever you get it, and we would appreciate that. If you're watching us on YouTube, hello. We appreciate seeing you guys again. Thanks for the chat. As always, lively, and we do appreciate your subscription, and if you hit the notifications bell as well. All right, Mo, we have coming up on Thursday, the Raiders schedule is going to be released. If you guys remember, home games against the Broncos, Chiefs, Chargers, of course, the Packers, the Vikings, Patriots, Giants, Jets, and Steelers. So we look at that, Mo. We will see Aaron Rodgers and the Jets in Vegas. We will see the Patriots. We will see, of course, the Packers and Jordan Love, who didn't get his option exercise, correct? Today.
Extension, though.
He got an extension instead. That's right. And then, of course, the Chiefs and the Broncos and the Chargers in division. Away, they play, of course, the 3 AFC West teams. They also play the Bills. Our good friend Evan Grote, though, is very upset because they're probably, and I think they are, playing the Bills in London. Yes, the Raiders supposedly headed to London yet again over the pond to go see. Maybe Mo and I will go to that one. What do you think, Mo? We should go over there?
Get your chips for me. I'll take it.
Do that. We had fun last time. You can see, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see the poster behind me is from our show that we did over there. The Bears in Chicago, the Detroit Lions in Detroit, Indianapolis Colts, and Miami Dolphins. Mo, let's talk about this. Is no easy schedule. This is a pretty difficult schedule. If you look at a lot of these teams, playoff teams, and teams that might not have been playoff teams, but up-and-coming teams who've made improvements. When you look at this one, I mean, we're not doing predictions and all that crazy stuff because we're not there yet. But when you look at the schedule, and we don't know exactly the dates on these things yet, for example, do they stick them in Pittsburgh again in the winter? Probably. And the same with, or excuse me, that one's in Vegas. But when you look at all the other games, Chicago in the winter, Buffalo is going to be in London, so they escaped that one. So the away games, not so much with the weather, but you look at the time of the season and what the buys will be, all that stuff coming up, we'll have answers for it on Thursday.
As far as weather games, I'm looking at possibly Denver late in the year, Kansas City late in the year, maybe. The Bears, that could be a late that could be a cold weather game. As you said, if it's true that the Rays are playing the Bills in London, then that won't be a factor there. But what I glean from this is that they're going to play one of the toughest divisions in football, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I had an article on Bleacher Report last week, and I ranked each division based on worst to best. And I had the AFC East as the second best division behind the AFC North. Now, they do play the Steelers, 2 third-place teams. That's how it goes with the schedule. Third-place teams play other third-place teams and so on and so forth. But playing the AFC East is going to be tough. You mentioned it. Aaron Rodgers now with the Jets. The Dolphins were a playoff team last year. We all know about the Bills. Don't sleep on the Patriots. I know people want to say the Patriots are trash, they're garbage.
Nope.
Listen, Bill O'Brien, when he was once the offensive coordinator for the Patriots, that he had that offense humming. When he was in Houston, even before Deshaun Watson got there, he made a lot out of nothing. DeAndre Hopkins was catching passes from a guy named TJ Yates, who a lot of you probably don't even remember. So before you throw the Patriots out as the worst team in that division and not a factor, consider that Bill O'Brien is now there, and that offense is going to be a lot better. So the Raiders playing the AFC East, tough division to play. They also play the NFC North, which I think is kind of a mixed bag. So I think the Vikings are going to come down a bit. They were 11-0 and one-score games in the regular season last year. That's not going to happen this year again. And the Packers, as you mentioned, are moving on with Jordan Love. There are going to be some growing pains there. But I do think the Lions are going to be a team to watch. And I do think the Chicago Bears are going to be much improved from last year with Justin Fields. So, as you said, tough schedule, even outside of their division in the AFC West.
I do. And if you look at home, again, if you look at home, the games that they have at home, a bunch of the difficult ones, including the Giants, they're at least at home. So you have that advantage. But the road games, Detroit, Indianapolis, depending what happens with them, with that tight end playing quarterback. And
oh, my God.
I got it in. Yay. You like it, don't you? But anyway, so a really tough schedule for this Raiders team. And it just ended up that way. It wasn't, I think, any nefarious. I know Raider fans will quickly go to the NFL trying to screw the Raiders. But the way the matchups work, like you said, with the third place teams and then the rotating schedule with who you're playing divisionally, that's how it wound out. But it's going to be fun to see what dates these are. And I know Raider Nation out there are excited because this is when they start. As soon as they get that schedule, they can book their flights, they can book their rooms, they can do all that stuff and get ready for a great year because Raider Nation goes everywhere. And I'm sure, just like my friend Just Win Wendy, who was with us over in London when we were there the last time when they beat the Bears, I'm sure she'll be going over there too. So there'll be a big contingent of folks going over the UK. And of course, Mo, there's a huge UK Raiders fan club. We met there. We went to a party there with a bunch of folks, and it was a blast. They're a big group in London.
Oh, Raider Nation's everywhere, no matter where you go. You're going to have a big group of people that are just rabid fans. But 2 things I want to point out. Number 1, I hope Anthony Richardson lights it up. Aside from that Raider game, aside from when the Colts play the Raiders, I hope Anthony Richardson lights it up. I hope he proves a lot of naysayers like you wrong.
I hope so too. I never root against anybody. I just don't think he will. But I do hope. Yeah, if he does, great. And the Colts and their crazy owner, they need a quarterback. So you don't want to see a kid fail. He's a kid. He's got all the promise in the world. So you hope he can succeed. But we'll see how it all ends up. Mo, the other thing is rookie minicamp coming up this weekend already. So we get to see some of these guys go into the rookie minicamp, which is really just hey, come on in, get to know the place, get to know the facility. It's really nothing from a football perspective. But the rookie minicamp, just to me, it's kind of, you have this slew of activity. You're going to have this. You're going to have some OTAs for 3 different times, or 2 in May and a couple in June. And then the league shuts down basically, right, until camp starts in July, August. And so now this is going to be Raider Nation's first opportunity to see these guys kind of get together to see all the veterans mix it up a little bit with the rookies in the facility. So at least you'll have some eye candy to watch.
Yeah, and that's how I'm glad you said eye candy because that's how I identify it. I mean, you're gonna hear this a million times, but we'll know who's ready to play and who's ready to bang when the pads come on
Exactly.
in July, August. Right now, guys are running around in their shorts and their t-shirts. Yeah, and you're gonna see a bunch of reports. Oh, this guy looks fast. This guy can catch the ball. And it's like, yeah, because they're playing in not even their gear and no one's trying to get hurt or anything. No one's
Right.
tackling. So of course guys are gonna look good. Guys are gonna look fast. Guys are gonna be able to catch the football. Like these things are I see it every year and I don't want to say it annoys me, but I get that there's not a lot of content out there, so you got to put something out there. And observations are great. Don't get me wrong; the reporters out there who provide the content, awesome job they do. But
Yes.
let's not eat this up as, oh man, this guy's going to be an all pro because he can catch in wide open space and run fast. It just doesn't work like that.
Not only that, but I'm telling you, you know who the star of rookie minicamp will be, don't you?
Michael Mayer.
No, he will be one of them. But you know who's going to be? Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable! It's going to be Trey Tucker. It's
Trey
gonna be
Tucker. Yeah. Yeah.
Guys,
Speed.
we will have David cut this clip. Our producer David Stepanian.
Yes.
We will cut this clip and we will run it next week. Because mark my words, that's what we're going to see. We're going to see Trey Tucker. Oh my gosh, he's so fast. Visions of Tyreek Hill. Right?
You're right,
So
Scott.
we're gonna get that. I'm telling you. I'm calling it right now.
You're absolutely right, Scott.
So we will play this, and if I'm wrong, then I'll eat my words. But I don't think I will be. So
Let's remember who was the star of training camp a couple of years ago. Brian Edwards was supposed to be TO / Randy Moss. Shout out to our guy Levi Edwards, does a great job.
Yes.
We're not making fun of him, but a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Brian Edwards is gonna be this and this and that," and he was the guy at these off-season workouts. And got to the season, he was super inconsistent. Now he did have some bright moments.
Yeah.
But he was just super inconsistent. That's why the Raiders traded him to Atlanta, where he didn't catch on, by the way. Now Brian Edwards is with the Saints. They signed him because he has that connection with Derek Carr. They can use him there. But all we're saying is that be excited for these rookies. Definitely be excited because there is some action going on. But, let's put everything in perspective. These guys aren't hitting. No one's tackling anyone. They're not going 100% full throttle,
and they're not playing the defense or the offensive playbook. They're just running around. Right. And remember, I mean, and I'm not going to name names because I'm wrong all the time too. But there were a couple writers who told us don't underestimate Tanner Muse. This guy can play. This guy can play. Okay, so there you go. Now he is still in the NFL, so I'll give him that. He's with Seattle. Or at least he was. I don't know if he is still, but anyway, that's how it all works out. And but then Mo, then you have OTAs. Same thing with OTAs, especially now. That's the thing to understand with the NFL in the last 10 years. There's no contact. They can't make contact like they used to. And to Mo's point about until you get to regular camp, when you put the pads on, the only thing they're doing really is relationship development. Right? They're going out there when you have the veterans that show up for camp. They're going out there. I know a lot of Raider fans are going to want, will Josh Jacobs show up? Yes, he'll show up. I don't see Josh Jacobs doing anything that's going to jeopardize him playing football, even though he wants a new contract, and who knows if that'll still happen. But OTAs will be the last time fans will be able to see the team a little bit before we head into the doldrums of the summer. And there's really no drama there. I think the drama only comes around, I think, June 1st with Hunter Renfrow, maybe a couple other players, but that's it.
Yeah, two things. And one thing I want to say this really clear that we're not saying that OTAs are meaningless, because the one thing I do like to see at OTAs or read their reporters' observations with is who lines up where. Because sometimes you get an idea of where a guy's going to play. So I know there were kind of whispers about will Dylan Parham move to center. Now, Andre James is still there, so that probably is going to happen. But I'm interested to see where Dylan Parham lines up. Is he going to be on the left side? Is he going to be on the right side? You don't want to pay too much attention to who's with the stars, the first unit, the second unit, because that can always change. That's usually fluid. But, is Chris Smith going to be, the safety next to Trayvon Merrick? Or is it going to be Marcus Epps? Is Corian Bennett going to get an early look at being with the first unit or not? Who's going to line up opposite Nate Hobbs? Where will Nate Hobbs line up primarily, in the slot or on the outside? So position-wise, you want to pay attention to that because it can give you a clue as to where guys are going to line up come the regular season.
And then who are they going to pull off of St. Rose Parkway to play linebackers? If you're familiar with where the Raiders headquarters is, right off St. Rose Parkway, it's pulling guys in there too. I mean, they're going to need guys just to walk in there just to take spots during drills. I mean, that's how bad it could be, but we'll see how it all goes down. But OTA is coming up in May. They have the 22nd through 23rd, and I think then the 25th, and then a couple other dates before you get into June and July. So there you go. But at least they'll get to see these guys in some silver and black, which is always fun. You get some picture days done and all that jazz, some interviews. Obviously, the folks on the ground that cover the team will get some of those. Those are always interesting. And then the UDFAs, man, the undrafted free agents. You start to see those stories come out pretty soon, too, as those guys get into camp and really more so around OTAs and some of the drills that they do there. So it's all good. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk more about the Raiders. We're going to talk more about a former Raider who had a big day this past week as far as his legal standing. Well, that's Henry Ruggs. We'll talk about that when we come back. You're listening to Mo and Scott. This is Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey original podcast. Stay right where you are. Welcome back. It's the Midtown Mo Show. No, it is Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey original podcast. My partner is Midtown Mo. That is Mo Moton, national NFL writer at Bleacher Report. Make sure you read his work up there. Also, you can catch his Raiders column once a week. Right, Mo? Once a week on sportsnot.com?
Twice if I'm feeling generous.
Oh, if he's feeling generous. Wow, it'll be Santa Mo. Give you an extra piece. That would be nice. You can catch him there. Follow him on Twitter, MOEMOTON. I am at LV Gully. The show is SNB Today. We appreciate you being with us. Hello to our YouTube viewers as well. Make sure you hit the subscribe and hit the notifications bell. Okay, Mo, to end the show out here, let's talk a little bit. We talked earlier in the show about the draft. We talked about undrafted free agents, the issues the Raiders still have. When you look at the trade and free agent market right now, guys who are still on the street, not on a roster. We talked about the Patrick Queen linebacker. Makes all the sense in the world. But when you look at other needs at offensive line, particularly at tackle for some depth, at linebacker, even in the defensive backfield, still, you could use some bodies there. When you look at that, what names out there kind of stick out to you? Who could the Raiders perhaps bring in to compete and help in some of those spots like linebacker?
I don't have my cheat sheet with me, but I believe Dalton Risner is still out there, which kind of surprises me. Dalton Risner played with the Broncos. Solid guard. Is he a Pro Bowl, All-Pro player? No. But I think he's an upgrade over what the Raiders have at one of the guard positions, assuming Parham is at one spot, because Nate Muti is not a starter in my eyes. Alex Bars is not a starter in my eyes. Raiders, if you're not going to pay Josh Jacobs, at least go get a starting guard opposite Dylan Parham. The other position, I think, at cornerback, you can upgrade there depending on what's out there. I know a lot of people say, well, they missed out on bringing back Rocky Ya-Sin, but what I will say is that, to me, them not bringing back Rocky Ya-Sin tells you what they think about Ja'Cory Bennett, that he can really play right away. But a lot of Raider fans have brought up Marcus Peters, right? And I'd be okay with bringing Marcus Peters in, but understand this isn't Marcus Peters from 2 years ago.
No.
He's coming off of a torn Achilles, I believe, or a torn ACL, one of the torn Achilles, I believe it was. He had a down year last year. And I know fans love the big names, and Marcus Peters is a big name, and you know, he's from the old Oakland area, so people want him and saying, oh, bring him home. And I get all of that sentiment, but understand that Marcus Peters at this point in his career isn't the ball hawking Marcus Peters you know from years ago. Now, he could probably still grab a couple of interceptions and he could still cover to an extent, but he's not that same player that you remember his earlier Ravens years, or when he was with the Rams or even with the Chiefs. If you want to go back that far, just understand what you're getting if you're bringing in Marcus Peters. He's not going to be a pen-in starter. He's going to compete for a starting job.
So, Mo, you look at the free agents available still at tackle, particularly offensive tackle. George Fant, you know, from the Jets. I don't know what his status is. He's still there. 30 years old. Cameron Irving from Carolina is available. Eric Fisher, he's a left tackle from Miami. Isaiah Wynn is still out there. Chris Hubbard is still out there. He's 32, so maybe a little bit on the other side. You talked about Jason Peters and Juwan James. There's some good names. To your point, not all pro guys anymore, or aren't all pro guys, but people who you could supplement that line with if the price is right. So you got to figure that these guys don't start getting itchy until June, right? Because you don't really need to sign before camp. There's really nothing going on. So some of these guys, we might not know what they do there with some free agents until June, even July.
Right. There's one name I looked into, Isaiah Wynn, because I'm wondering, to me, that was one of the first names I penciled in that the Rays would sign in free agency, simply because the Patriots drafted him in the first round in 2018, I believe it was, out of Georgia.
Right. With Josh
And he
McDaniels.
has the versatility. He's played both tackle positions, and he played guard at Georgia. So I'm like, why don't the Raiders sign him? So I did some digging. I did some digging. I was Inspector Gadget Mo, and I did some research.
Magnifying glass, we need one.
Right. And I looked at Isaiah Wynn's Twitter profile, and he's out there making demands. He basically said in his Twitter in a tweet, he said, if you're not offering $5 million, I'm not gonna even talk to you.
Wow.
And I'm like, whoa, like this dude, I'm not saying like dude, you've been hurt a lot in New England, and you weren't exactly living up to your first round pedigree.
Yeah.
And you're out here making demands. Like, I'm not gonna even talk to you unless you offer $5 million. And I'm like, okay, this is why he's not a Raider, because he's out here trying to dictate terms when he wasn't even a top tier player. And that's not something that Josh McDaniels or Dave Ziegler is going to want to get involved with. So if you're wondering why Isaiah Wynn isn't a Raider, check out his Twitter profile and you'll see why.
Yeah. Now, if you look at Spot Track and you look at his value, they do market values on there, right? Yep. They have Isaiah Wynn at a $15.4 million average annual salary. Now, I know, yeah, that's crazy. $77 million over 5 years, right? And this is coming off his contract where he earned $11 million over the course of his career in New England, guaranteed. So you look at that, and it's just, but so when he says $5 million, I don't know where he's getting that from and where he's basing it on, but he's managed by CAA, one of the big sports firms out there. And it's interesting. These guys have lots of demands, but then when the phone doesn't ring, those demands start to change really quick. So he might be one of those guys. I have a feeling, though, somebody will pay him probably what he wants out of desperation. You'll have one of these teams lose, crazy stuff happens. Somebody's knee blows out, and suddenly they're willing to pay whatever they have to get somebody in, especially a guy like this who's versatile, who can move around. So we'll see what they do there. But it's interesting. There are good names, to my point, out there on offensive tackle. Linebacker, different story, Mo. From a linebacking position, outside of Patrick Queen, you talked about Isaiah Simmons. It's the linebackers in the NFL, most of them that I appreciate the most are already accounted for and signed. But is there anybody else out there who you would argue for might be a good fit in Las Vegas with Patrick Graham?
Not among the free agents.
Yeah.
To me, if you're gonna go with a linebacker, you're gonna have to gauge a trade market.
Mm-hmm.
To me, there aren't any linebackers out there that I would sign and say, okay, that guy should be a starter. A lot of people, again, they like the big names. They brought up Miles Jack, and I will say there's a reason why the Steelers let Miles Jack go. You can't cover.
Right.
now, if you need him on early downs to play the run, support the run, fine. But I wouldn't touch Miles Jack. The only guy I would give consideration to, and I'm not sure if he's available or not, because again, I don't have my free agent cheat sheet with me. Jalen Smith. Former Cowboy who dropped in the draft. I believe he dropped in the second round because there were questions about his knee. He had a resurgent year with the Giants right here in my backyard. Right in the middle of that defense, played pretty well. Now, I don't know what his condition is or what his situation is, but if you could bring in a Jalen Smith, I think that probably one of the better options they have on the free agent market. Again, I'm not jumping for joy and saying that he's going to, shore it up for them and be the only answer, but I think definitely an upgrade, which is not saying much, but I think he can play well in the middle of that defense. He actually upgraded or elevated that Giants linebacker court last year. So if you could bring in a Jalen Smith, if he fits your scheme, I'd definitely take a flyer on him.
Yeah, you look at some of the guys available. You talked about Miles Jack, Deion Jones, and this is on the inside. Zach Cunningham, a guy named Corey Littleton.
Oh, gosh. They're still paying Corey Littleton, by the way.
Might as well bring him back.
Might as well bring him back, right?
Just play for us for free because I'm already paying you anyway. Kyle Van Noy. Yeah, there's nobody on the inside. And then on the outside.
You just mentioned it. I'm sorry.
What's
the
that?
one guy I would bring in
Yeah.
Kyle Van Noy fits exactly what the
Well,
Raiders are looking
what
for.
they
Now I
do.
know, I get it. He's 32 years old because I put this out on Twitter. I said this is how the Raiders fix their linebacker course. They trade for Patrick Queen and they sign Kyle Van Noy. And I know he's 32, but he fits the mold of what the Raiders have been looking for with their defense. I said
And
this
as a
on Twitter.
stopgap, just a
Two
stopgap.
things that Dave Ziegler said after the draft that mattered to him most that he mentioned over and over again: football character and versatility.
Yep.
Those are the two things that I heard over and over again from him at least 5 times during his post-game press conferences. Kyle Van Noy does that. Now he's not great at coverage at this point in his career, but he can supplement the pass rush. He could definitely supplement the run, and he knows has experience. Not that he knows the system inside and out, but he can definitely patch up that linebacker corps and be, as you said, a stopgap for a year and give you something.
Yes. At
Listen,
this point, you need a
as I said,
body.
he's better than Spillane in my opinion right
Yeah.
now. I would
Yeah.
take Kyle Van
Oh,
Noy
yeah.
over Spillane simply because of the versatility factor.
Well, that's why, Mo, I got to think. I mean, I just can't imagine, although I shouldn't say this because you just can't fill all the holes in one season. But I can't imagine the Raiders going into the season with the guys they have now and some undrafted rookies. I just can't see it. So to me, it points to they'll do something. Again, it doesn't have to be a blockbuster trade. To get Patrick Queen, I don't think would take a lot. And I think he's worth it because he's going to play on spec. He's going to be playing for a contract. So you're going to get the best out of him, you would hope. So we'll see what they do there. It's going to be a crazy little mini kind of season here between now and training camp to see what they do. But remember last year we said this about offensive line. They got nobody. They're going to have to go get somebody. And they didn't do it. They developed what they had and it got better. They don't have bodies at linebacker though. They don't have anybody to get better. That's my point there. So that's really dangerous. I think it becomes the biggest hole in the team right now.
Unless they are putting all their eggs in the Luke Masterson, Darian Butler basket, which is a very risky proposition. But
Yes.
I would
Yes.
believe that they're going to bring in at least one linebacker, either via trade or free agency. They have to do something there because if they go into the season with what they have, that is probably going to be the biggest blunder of their offseason moves.
Right. And you're not going to get all pro linebackers. You're going to get, to your point about stopgap, you got to get a guy that's not going to cost you too much, but because again, they're building through the draft. They need another draft to really make a bigger step. And so they're not going to do anything to get rid of too much draft capital. They need it badly. And so I think you're going to see that. Dave Ziegler's been very consistent about it. I know Raider fans want to win now, but the reality is they're going to take another draft class to, I think, get to the stratus to where you're like, okay, now this, if the class this year performs as it should, and maybe even a little better, and you get out of your stars what you need to as well, and your quarterback stays healthy, and you're in a good spot, then suddenly you might be in a position next year to make the jump and maybe make the playoffs.
I know Raiders fans are tired of the Band-Aid approach at the linebacker position, but that's basically the position they're in right now.
Yep.
Just remember what they did when they acquired Denzel Perryman and turns into a Pro Bowl linebacker. I think they're going to try to hit on another linebacker at the position. So now it's a different regime, but I think the same idea holds where you're just going to have to get a low-cost player and see what he does in the season, and then you move on from there.
Absolutely. Mo, before we get out of here today, we're already done, unbelievably. We had some news. Henry Ruggs, the former wide receiver for the Raiders, of course, first-round draft pick, who was driving drunk and killed Tina Tintor and her dog in Las Vegas. If you remember the accident, no one can forget it. Made a plea deal this past week, to plead guilty to the charges. So now he will await sentencing, and he can move on with paying his debt to society, and I'm sure to Tina Tintor's family as well financially. However that works, I'm not sure. But one of those kind of milestone moments where it's unfortunate the young man's life was altered, as was the young woman who lost her life and her family forever. But Mo, the Raiders get to sort of move on from this once he's sentenced and he's off. It could be anything. He could go away for quite a while, or he could get some leniency for not having any other offenses. So we'll have to see what they do. It is a felony in the state of Nevada, especially with what he did. But good for the team and for him to start to just move forward with their lives.
The buzz on Twitter, a lot of people were asking, is the time that he's already been kind of out of the picture, is that going to factor into his time served? A lot of people saying that's outrageous because he actually killed a person. And people are also upset about the time range of his sentencing. I think 3 to 10 years was the number, and a lot of people are saying, "Wow, 3 to 10 years and you killed someone." But when you get into law, and I took a little bit of criminal justice in college, it's all about intent. If
Right.
there's intent there, that ups the sentencing range. If there was obviously no intent, I believe it's manslaughter for him.
Mhm.
Then you're not going to see a 25-year sentence or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, and we'll see what they do. It depends too. In Nevada, they can be very difficult on drunk drivers, as you can imagine, with the environment there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is a young man, had no other trouble. I'm not making excuses for him because, again, he deserves what he gets. He took the life of a young woman, unfortunately, because of his carelessness and lack of awareness to what he was going to do or what he put himself in the position to do. So we'll have to see. But at least it's moving forward now. The family can get some justice too because they deserve that. That's number one in my book over anything that happens to Henry Ruggs. Now, I get it. People are still angry at him for what he did. There are people out there who lost loved ones to drunk drivers, and this brings up bad memories for them as well. It's one of those things in society where you're right, intent matters, but at the same time, so does justice, and you have to do justice for those people who lost their lives and for the Tintor family who lost their daughter. Just a tragic thing, and again, good for everybody to start to move forward and to deal with it and to move on and move forward. So there you go. That's the latest on Henry Ruggs.
I believe the plea is set for May 10th, which is Wednesday for anyone
officially.
interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be tomorrow. So you can pay attention, watch any of the Las Vegas news. I'm sure it'll be on the national news as well. All right, Mo, we're going to get out of here. We'll be back on Thursday, but we record the show before the schedule's released, so we won't have that information, but I'm sure it'll leak out, so we'll have something.
Yeah.
It'll leak out, as well as we'll have 4 features on Trey Tucker being the next star in the NFL. I'm just kidding.
Also,
Trey,
I'll have a Bleacher Report live show Thursday night if anyone's interested.
Nice.
So we'll have something pre on this show and then post on Bleacher Report. Pull up the app. I'll be there talking about some of the Raiders' most intriguing games on the schedule and where you can go to have some fun and just link up with other Raider fans and where you might want to go and have some fun with a win instead of a loss, because there are some wins on this schedule. So I want to direct fans to the positivity.
Yes. No, it's a tough schedule. Doesn't mean they can't rise to the occasion, by the way.
Yeah.
But see, I love this. So on Thursday, you wake up on your way to work, you listen to us. And then in the afternoon, you get to listen to Mo after the schedule's released.
Yeah, you got you covered.
Man, we just got it all covered. All right, my friend, I will see you then.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you guys all for joining us here on Silver and Black today, an Odyssey original podcast covering the Las Vegas Raiders. If you don't already subscribe to the show, please do that for us. Wherever you get your audio, just hit subscribe and then put on the auto download. For those viewers on YouTube, thanks for being with us and thanks for seeing you. It's always good to see you from here and to mix it up with you in the chat. So we appreciate that. Hit the subscribe and the notifications bell. For our ace producer, Mr. David Stepanian, and for Mo Moten, I am Scott Branson. We will talk to you on Thursday, Raider Nation. Enjoy your week.